My name is Nora Chen. I'm 33 and I'm a marine engineer. The deep-sea submersibles I design can go down to 6,000 meters, places that can crush you with 600 times the pressure of the surface. That means if there's even a pinhole-sized crack in the hull, seawater would shoot in at the speed of sound and flatten us in an instant. My master's thesis was on redundant power systems for deep-sea vehicles. It's been cited over 300 times. I thought building the safest submersible in the world would be my greatest achievement. Then I married him. My husband, Derek Sterling, is 36, a former executive at a deep-sea mining company. We met at an ocean technology conference. He was on stage talking about deep-sea mining, and I was in the audience thinking bullshit. His slides were beautiful, his numbers looked solid, but I knew he was selling a lie to anyone who didn't know better. Real deep-sea mining? It's an absolute massacre of the ocean floor.
Dr. Chen, I've read your paper. Your submersible is more beautiful than any mineral deposit.
His eyes' looks was so gentle. I bought it. I believed him for 2 whole years. Together we designed the Deep Diver 2, a manned submersible that could take 3 people down to 7,000 the business side. Finding esters, cutting deals, raising money. I handled the tech, drawings, materials, testing, Caltrace match, perfect deep sea. But no one knew that in our bedroom, the lights hadn't been on at the same time in a long while. He came home later and later. I barely saw him. Now I know he was busy figuring out how to make me disappear. For our honeymoon, he said we should go diving in the Maldives. I thought it was romantic. I thought he had a surprise for me. Turns out, he wanted to test the sub's limits. He set the dive depth to 7,200 meters, 10% past the design limit. I had no idea at the time. He did it on purpose. That afternoon, we descended to 4,000 meters below the surface. Outside the window, total darkness. Only the sub's lights cutting a small patch of water. Every now and then, a glowing jellyfish drifted by. Beautiful, but unreal. Derek sat next to me, tapping his fingers on the controls. Fast rhythm, like a heartbeat. He taps his fingers when he's nervous. I knew that. But that time it was too steady, like he was counting down. Then the alarms went off. Loud, string, the kind that makes your skin crawl. Power system failure. Main battery voltage just dropped off a cliff. Thrusters went dead. We started dropping like a rock. The numbers on the depth gauge jumped rapidly. 4,001, 4,002, 4,000. My heart sank with it, but I didn't panic. I am an engineer. I designed every screw, every pipeline, every circuit board of this submarine. I know what it will do and how to fix it. His voice was ignored him and quickly switched to the backup battery pack. My fingers slid rapidly on the touchscreen. 10%, 30%, 60%. The thrusters kicked back on. A deep vibration shook the hull, like a waking whale. The descent stopped, but the depth had dropped to 4,800 meters. We were stuck nearly 5,000 meters below the sea surface, with no way up or down, surrounded by pitch black. The barometer showed the hull was sealed, and the temperature was -2 degrees Celsius. I started shivering, my teeth chatting.
Nora, this is the deepest part of the sea. I can't save you.
I turned to look at him. There was no fear or panic on his face, only a cold indifference I had never seen before. And in that moment, I understood. He wasn't afraid of me dying. He wanted me to die. I don't need you to save me, I'll drive up myself. I pushed the joystick all the way forward, the backup battery pack outputting at full capacity, the thrusters at maximum power. The submarine let out and the depth gauge started to jump back. 4,500 meters, 4,000 meters, 3,800 meters. Derek didn't speak. He just looked out the window. The water outside the window changed black to dark blue, dark green to light blue. When we surfaced, the sun so bright it made me unable to open my eyes. Covered my eyes with hands, shined to my fingers was like golden swords. On the surface, a rescue boat was already there. I thought Derek had called them. Turns out, he hadn't. The onshore monitoring center had detected an off-fly-just accident and sent the boat. A lifeguard pulled Derek onto boat, and I followed right behind. His face was gray, his lips purple. I couldn't recall if it was from the fear. Once on board, it looked like he walked away immediately, sat by the railing, and stared at the horizon.
Dr. Chen, your power system failure. It's weird. The main battery connector was deliberately loosened.
Deliberately?
Not from vibration, not from wear and tear, not a design flaw. Someone used a tool to loosen it. I've been doing this for 20 years. I can spot that kind of mark in a second.
Stared at him. Not many people had access to that sub, only a handful. Me, Derek, and 2 calibration engineers. And both of those engineers, Derek had hired them. They used to work for him at his old company. My heart sank. That night back at the lodging, Derek was having a clean water running loud. I lay on the rest place, eyes wide open, staring the rescuers over and over. His voice was like a nail being hammered into my temple, one tap after another. I heard Derek turn off the water, dry off, and stepped out of the bathroom. When he got into bed, the mattress dipped, then he turned and put his arm around my waist. His fingers were cold, like the bottom of the sea. I didn't move. I pretended to be asleep. His breathing evened out. I quietly got up and walked barefoot to the living room, the floor of my laptop top, and started typing furiously. I was going to find the proof. I needed the black box. Every manned submersible has one. It records all sensor data, control inputs, and cabin. International marine law require it, just like on airplanes. I pulled up the pre-dive logs and looked at power system nectar. The curve on the screen looked like an EKG, smooth and steady. Then at one moment, it just cliff dropped. That wasn't torque value went from normal to zero in a fraction of a second, like someone had just cranked it open with a wrench. I checked the time stacks. During that window, the only fingerprints on the control console were Derek's. His prints before the dive. His time, only the two of us were inside running checks. I kept scrolling and found the cabin audio recordings. I put on my headphones and turned the volume all the way up. Background hum soft drove the sub, my breathing, then his voice, very faint, Bam's buried under the lie. A lonely line, stubbornly holding its own in a sea of noise. I listened to that clip 7 or 8 times. Each time it felt like a dull knife dragging across my throat.
That should do it, right?
He said that, then paused turn. Then came another a wrench turn. He gave Artie enough sure it wouldn't by accident. I took off the headphones, my fingers frozen over the keyboard. Outside, the Maldives night was beautiful. The moon was huge, hanging over the sea, turning the water into scattered silver. But only one thought went through my mind. He used to love me. He chased me for 2 years. When he proposed, put a slab on the ocean floor that said, "Marry me." But then he fell in love with money. The patent licensing fees, the deep sea mining partnership, the emails he hid from me. Turns out I was just a pawn to him. I started backing up the evidence. Black box data, fingerprint records, audio clips. I didn't tell anyone, not even my lawyer. I carefully copied everything onto a tiny encrypted USB drive, no bigger than a fingernail, and hid it in my bra. Then I uploaded backups to 3 different Google Drive, Doc, iCloud, each one set with a delayed send. If anything happened to me, the evidence would automatically go into the prosecutor and Catherine's email. I don't know why I was so careful. Maybe because I just realized someone who wants you dead at the bottom of the ocean isn't going to hesitate to do it again. Derek didn't know I'd found out. He thought I'd just gotten lucky down our job. The next day, we cut the honeymoon short and flew back to Chicago. On the plane, he held my hand. His palm was warm. His voice soft.
Nora, when we get back, we'll fix up the sub. Next time, we'll nail it.
Okay. He looked out the window and didn't notice the cold smile on my lips. I closed my eyes and thought one thing. There's no next time for you. There's no next time for us. The day after we got back to Chicago, I went to a law firm. Catherine Chen, my college roommate, now one of the top intellectual property lawyers in the country. Her office is on the 42nd floor of a downtown high-rise, floor-to-ceiling windows looking out over the blue for a long time. She listened to my story, looked through the evidence-eyed lenses, a little habit she has when she's thinking hard. "Nora, you're talking about charging him with attempted murder." Her voice was calm, but her hand was trembling slightly. "Yes." "How sure are you?" "The evidence is all right here." She nodded, opened her laptop, and started to drafting the complaint. The only sounds in the room were the keyboard clicking and the air conditioner humming. When I signed, my hand didn't shake. The pen tip hit the paper, and a little ink blot spread out. "Aren't you afraid he'll retaliate?" "He already did. He almost killed me. Nothing scarier than that." Right after I said it, I realized I was wrong. What's scarier is that I actually loved him once. Having that trust betrayed, it's more suffocating than death. Walking out of the law firm, Chicago wind hit me, cold. October in Chicago already tastes like winter. The wind off the lake has a little bite to it. I looked up. The sky was gray, the color of the deep sea, but at least down there are glowing jellyfish. Up here, there was nothing. Derek must have sensed something was off. He started being unusually sweet to me. Every morning while I was still half asleep, he'd brought me a cup of hot coffee.
Babe, drink it while it's hot.
At night, he'd come home early, put on an apron, and cook. He never used to cook, couldn't even make instant noodles. Now he'd learned to pan-sear a steak. On weekends, he'd drive us out to see the fall colors. Maple Avely by Lake Michigan, red like fire. He bought a golden retriever puppy online and named it Deep Diver. The pup came in a cardboard box, curled up in a corner, shivering.
This is our son.
Deep died down and spun around my feet, tail wagging like a fan. He approved of his noose head. He licked my hand, warm tongue.
See how much he loves you?
I smiled too. But I was smiling because he thought a dog could make me forget what happened down there. He thought a steak, a cup of coffee, and a golden retriever could cancel out the fact that he wanted me dead at the bottom of the abyss. That night, he had a little to drink, his face flushed, and he put his arm around me and said,
"Nora, I'm so scared of losing you."
I leaned into him but didn't move. "What are you scared of?" His fingers traced circles on my back, like ripples on the surface.
Scared you'll leave me.
I wanted to ask, then why did you want me dead? But I swallowed the words, afraid because the timing wasn't right. He was scared, not of me, but of the law. His hand started shaking, from his fingertips all the way up to his arm. And suddenly, I felt sorry for him. A man who used to be so proud, now just a cornered animal. The next evening, Derek came home with his face ashen. He stood in the entry true in his stare in that lawyer's letter. His were white, his nubwas work was crumpled. The voice was shaking,
Nora,
not from
have
fear.
you lost your mind?
I haven't lost my mind.
You're suing me for attempted murder?
You almost killed me.
I did
Then what
not.
about the black box recording your fingerprints? You're still going to deny it? He opened his mouth, but nothing came out. His Adam's jolt bobbed a few times like something was stuck in his throat. He lunged at me. His footsteps were heavy, thumping on the... This time I didn't dodge. I stood my ground and stared into his eyes. He was scared, not of me, but of the law. His hands started shaking, from his fingertips all the way up to his arm. And suddenly, I felt sorry for him. A man who used to be so proud, now just a cornered animal. Derek was arrested. When the police came, he was watering the garden, wearing that blue cashmere sweater I'd given him. I'd remember picking it out for his birthday last year. Soft cashmere, a color that looked good on him. When the cop clicked the handcuffs onto his sound, was metal sound extra sharp in the quiet morning.
He looked at me with a mix of hate, bitterness, and begging in his eyes.
I didn't look at him. I turned around, went inside, and closed the door. All the outside noise was cut off. Deep Diver circled by the door, tail tucked between his legs, whimpering nervously. He licked my hand and gave a little wag. The living room clock showed 10 o'clock. I sat on the couch and suddenly felt like the house was too big. So big it made my chest tight. All the furniture we'd picked together, the paintings we'd hung, the flowers we'd planted, they all felt foreign now. Derek was taken away. The sound of the police car faded into the distance. The garden hose was still running, water trickling across the grass, slowly seeping into the dirt. I got up, turned off the water, coiled the hose neatly into a loop. Would he have liked that kind of tidy ending? I don't know. Maybe he never cared at all. On the day of the trial, the courtroom was packed. Derek wore a navy blue suit, his hair perfectly combed, a dark blue tie. He looked as polished as ever, like a successful businessman, not an attempted murderer. His lawyer was the best criminal defense attorney in the city, Miller. Slow-talking, voice smooth as polished stone, great at playing the emotion card.
This was just an unfortunate accident.
The prosecutor called my expert witness, John Morris, 40 years of marine engineering experience, gray hair, but eyes as sharp as in the jury.
This kind of torque decay curve, we call it human inch and torque anomaly. It's not vibration, not aging, not any natural cause. You can't prove who turned the wrench.
The expert looked at me. I nodded. Derek Sterling's fingerprints.
The Prince Sterling's from the Prince, no torque anomaly.
Case. Someone gasped.
My client is an engineer. Touching the console during testing is normal. An engineer touching equipment is like a doctor touching a patient. It doesn't prove anything.
Rose, like he was making a last-ditch plea.
Please play audio evidence.
The courtroom speakers played the recording.
That should do it, right?
Then the screech of a wrench turning, sharp, like nails on a chalkboard. Dead silence. Derek's face went from red to gray. His fingernails dug into his palms. Even his lawyer went quiet, scribbling fury on his notes, but I could see his shoulders trembling. The judge asked if the defendant had anything to say. Derek stood up, hands braced on the table, white, knuckles white. His lips were trembling, like a fish out of water.
I didn't mean to. It was a moment of smaller, like someone of stupidity. A moment of stupidity? And you try your wife?
He didn't of the gallery. In the white-haired old lady covered her mouth with a handkerchief. Tears been falling her mother. I didn't look back. Those tears were hers, not mine. After the recess, the judge said sentencing would come another day. Derek was led away by the bailiffs. When he passed by me, he stopped. I could smell his cologne, the same one he'd always worn.
Nora, I hope you can forgive me.
His voice was soft, like a final plea.
You don't need my forgiveness. You need your own.
He froze, lips moving a few times, but no sound came out. Then the bailiffs pulled him away. The clinking of handcuffs echoed down the hallway, fading away.
You okay? Yeah. Walking out of the courthouse, the sun was so bright I had to squint. I stood on the steps and took a deep breath. You won. It's not winning. It's just over. I twisted off the cap. The water was warm. Summer in Chicago, even the wind is hot. On sentencing day, Derek got 12 years. When the judge read the verdict, his face was completely blank, immediately filed an appeal, but in a case like this, the chances of overturning it were next to nothing. Derek's mother stopped me in the hallway.
Nora, you destroyed him! I never want to see you again!
Her voice was sharp, like nails on glass. I looked into her eyes that had once smiled at me and said, "Welcome to our family." He destroyed himself. I just didn't cover it up for him. She tried to say something else, her lips moving, but no words came out. I turned and walked away. Behind me, I heard her crying. Muffled, broken sobs. I didn't stop. Are you sad? No, I'm just sorry. Sorry for the marriage. Sorry for those years. You don't regret turning him in? No, because if I hadn't, the next victim might have been someone else. Technology can kill, just like it can save. Back to the empty house. Deep Diver was waiting for me at the door. His tail was wagging like crazy. He didn't know what had happened, just that his person was home. I crouched down and hugged him, burying his fuzzy head in my chest. He went quiet and let out a little whine like he was asking. I remembered when Derek bought him. This is our son, he'd said, but dogs are way more loyal than people. Dog won't want you dead at the dog loosen a valve on your honeymoon. That night, I sat in my study, opened my laptop, pulled up the submersible Peyton files. Not because I'm some saint, because I didn't need the money from it. I had enough. My technology needed to be used by more people, not locked in a screen looked at someone's personal open window. I clicked confirm. The next day, I contacted the patent office and filed the paperwork to open the license.
You're sure you want to make this free? Do you know what this patent is worth?
I know, and I'm sure. The day the news got out, my inbox exploded. Some people thanked me, some questioned me, some asked, "Are you out of your mind?" I'm not the crazy one. I just didn't want anyone's greed to ruin a good technology ever again. That technology belonged to the ocean, to science, to everyone. I used the money Derek left behind to start the Deep Sea Foundation, funding women in marine science. The first scholarship went to a PhD student at USC. Her research was on deep-sea hydrothermal veining ecosystems. She wrote me and said, "Don't thank you for letting me continue my work." Work hard was light blue, the handwriting neat. I wrote back.
Work hard, and don't let anyone steal your success.
She didn't know that I was saying that to myself, too. I started writing a book, Deep Sea Self-Rescue Manual. Not a memoir, a technical manual. In plain English, I taught subpilots trapped in manuzo in the sea to the bottom how to fix power faults, how to read pressure, how to keep their cool. I broke down every second of my own experience in that sub into actionable steps.
This won't sell, it's too niche.
Then I'll give it away for free. We printed 1,000 copies. I sent them to marine research institutes, university libraries, and science stations. 3 months after I sent them out, I got an email from a research station in Antarctica. A marine biologist named Jack Brown wrote. I replied with one word, "Good." That was enough. It was more than enough. Sometimes one word can carry more weight than a whole letter. Derek's lawyer called and said Derek wanted to see me. No. Then he said Derek wanted to write. I said, fine. The first letter was short, just a few lines. Nora, I'm sorry. I didn't reply. The second why was longer. Nora, I know is monster. I have nightmares every up to you. I'll spend of my life atoning. I didn't back one line. I sent bother. You don't need to make it up to yourself. Your nightmares aren't about me. They're about what you did. He didn't write again. I started giving talks all over the world about safety design for deep sea subs and about how to keep your head in extreme situations.
Dr. Chen, how did you stay calm in that situation?
Her eyes were big, like a startled deer. I thought for a moment. It's not that I wasn't scared. I didn't have time to be scared. Staying alive is more important than being afraid. She nodded and wrote it down in her notebook. After the talk, she ran up and handed me a note that said, I'm going to be a marine engineer too. The handwriting was messy, like she'd written it in a rush of excitement. It was the best gift I'd received in years. Deep Diver got old. He walked slower and slower. His fur went from golden to pale yellow, and white hairs grew around his eyes. I took him to the park. When he couldn't walk anymore, he'd just lie in the grass and soak up the sun. I sat next to him and watched the lake in the distance. The water was blue, deep, but not that deep sea black. I suddenly remembered when Derek bought him, a tiny puppy up in a cardboard box, shivering, eyes barely open. We were still good back then. He didn't want to kill me yet. He'd take him to the beach on weekends, let him run on the sand. He'd laugh and send me pictures of him. Now Deep Diver doesn't remember him anymore. Dogs don't have that long a memory. Derek's mother passed away. Before she died, she had someone tell me I'm sorry. I had Catherine send a bouquet of white roses on my behalf. No name on the card. That was enough. Those grudges shouldn't follow her into the ground. I didn't go to the funeral. Not because I haven't forgiven. Don't need a funeral to say goodbye. Deep Diver lay at my feet all that afternoon, like he knew I was sad. I stroked his head. His breathing was light. I hired an assistant, Maya, fresh out of a marine engineering program. She looked small and skinny, but she was strong. She could lift 20 kilos of red weights. She was so eager to learn, following me around asking questions every day like a little chirping bird.
Stop asking so many questions. First, learn how to use a wrench.
I have used one.
Not the kind for fixing a bike.
Sheeply, and showed her 2 little fang teeth. In the back row of the gallery, a white-haired old lady covered her mouth, falling one by one. She pressed her face to the viewport, frozen, like she was hypnotized.
Nora, this is so beautiful.
It gets even better below 3,000 meters.
Can we go? Yeah, but not today.
Why not?
But every day after work, she stayed in the shop, taking bolts out and putting them back in over and over, practicing till late at night.
Maya's hands got steadier and steadier. She came with me down to 3,000 meters, saw the hydrophyte crabs crawled around like ghosts. She sat at the view hole all day.
That's enough. We're running low on oxygen.
She nodded, but her eyes were still glued to the window.
Nora, I want to be like you someday.
You will, as long as you don't want to die at the bottom.
She blinked. I started teaching Maya self-rescue techniques, the backup battery pack, how to repair a power connector, how to keep calm in the dark.
Nora, did you go through something like this? Yes.
She didn't push. She just smart-peed me a glass of warm water after every session and set it next to my hand. The temperature was perfect. Not too hot, not too cold. Derek wrote from prison that he was learning woodworking. He'd built some bookshelves for the prison library. He said, "I've changed." The paper was wrinkled, like it had been torn from a notebook. I looked at those few lines and put the envelope in my drawer. 3 months later, he wrote again.
Nora, I learned to make chairs. Pine wood, really sturdy.
The paper was still wrinkled, the handwriting messy. I put it in the drawer with all the others. The drawer was getting full. I didn't throw them away. Not because I still cared, because I couldn't be bothered. Deep Diver slept at my feet, his tail twitching every now and then. Maya made her first solo dive. She piloted the sub alone to 4,000 meters and collected sediment samples from the ocean floor.
Nora, I did it!
Her eyes sparkled like sunlight on the water. You could have done it a long time ago. You just needed a chance.
So can I keep going down to 5,000?
Yes. But remember, no matter how beautiful the bottom is, you have to come back up. She nodded, serious like she was taking an oath. I expanded the Deep Sea Rose Foundation's reach. Not just PhD students anymore, high schoolers, college undergrads. If they were interested in marine science, I'd fund them. Some people said, "You're just throwing money away." I said, "Yes, I am." They deserve it, because everyone who looks up at the stars should get a chance to keep going. A high schooler named Emily wrote to us. She'd wanted to study deep-sea sharks since she was little, but her family was poor, her parents didn't support her, told her stop dreaming. I read it several times, then pinned it on my office wall, right next to those submersible blueprints. Derek got out early. Good behavior. Time off for good conduct. He didn't come find me, just had his lawyer pass along a message. Said they wouldn't come bother you. I were good. Deep Diver was gone by then, died of old age. I buried him in the backyard and planted an apple tree over him. Every spring, the tree bursts into white blossoms. The petals fall like snow. I can't say for sure they bloom for him, but I like to think so. My new submersible, Deep Sea Rose 1, launched. This time, no partners, no husband, nobody else's name on the blueprints. Just me. Down to 5,000 meters, just the sub's lights cutting a small circle of water. I suddenly remembered what Derek said down there.
You're stuck at the bottom, and I can't save you.
He was wrong. He never wanted to save you, but I saved myself. I cut the dive footage into a short video and added text. I posted it online. It got over 10 million views. The comments exploded. Some called me brave. Some said I was just looking for attention. Some asked, "Where's your ex-husband now?" I didn't reply to a single one, except one. It was from a young wife, except one. Emily got her PhD, specializing in deep-sea sharks. She sent me a photo of herself with a whale shark. She was standing at the bow of a boat, the whale shark underwater, her shadow falling on the surface. I pinned it on my office wall, next to the blueprints.
Nora, time to dive.
Coming. My body started having issues. Old knee injury came back. I couldn't dive as often anymore.
You really shouldn't go underwater anymore. The pressure is bad for your joints.
I didn't listen, but Maya overheard and basically stole my pilot seat.
Nora, you just sit on shore and watch me.
Like mine used to be. I looked at her. She'd grown up, no longer that little girl who couldn't hold a wrench steady. I sat in the onshore control room, watching the depth numbers change on the screen. 1,000 meters, 2,000, 3,000.
Nora, it's so dark down here.
But you know which way is up.
I do.
The way up is longer than the way down, but as long as you start, you'll get there. Derek's lawyer said he was sick, probably dying, and wanted to see me. I didn't go. He wrote me, "Nora, I'm dying." I didn't reply. He wrote again, "I just want to see you once. There are things I need to say in person." I sent back one line, "What would it change? You want me to say I forgive you? I can't say that." He didn't write again. A month later, the lawyer told me he'd passed away. I didn't go to the funeral. Not because I haven't forgiven, because there's no point. Some people leave this world and you don't owe them a single tear. I pulled those letters out of the drawer and read them one by one. From "I'm sorry" to "I've changed" to "I'm dying." The handwriting went from neat to messy, the paper from white to yellowed. I put them in a big Manny envelope, sealed it, and threw in the trash. Not forgiveness, just no longer needed. Deep Diver was gone, but the apple tree was still there. Next spring, it would bloom again. Today, Maya was going down to 6,000 meters, a record. I sat in the onshore control room, watching the monitors. Her fingers on the controls, steady as mine used to be. The depth display popped, 6,010 meters.
Nora, we're here. Good.
I suddenly remembered the first dive I ever did. Derek was there with me then. Back then, I thought we'd make it to the end together. Then he left me at the bottom. But I don't blame him, because he taught me something, just the surface on life. 6,000 meters down, just the sub-lights. Maya's came through the comms clear and steady. Nora, it's dark down here, but my lights are on. I leaned back in my chair and watched the numbers slowly climb back up, 5,500. She was rising, like a star rising out of the abyss. My name is Nora Chen. I'm a deep-sea engineer. I've surfaced my design to get the best commercials in the world, and I my money to girls with dreams. The deep sea is dark. On 1,000 meters, it was already dark outside. The Deep Diver 2 sat quietly at the dock, its lights blinking, like it was waiting for the next invitation to the abyss. The people who wanted me to sleep forever on the ocean floor, time has taken them here, and I'm still diving. The lights on shore will always be on for those who come home. Not because I'm forgiving, because I'm alive. By the time Maya surfaced from 6,000 meters down, it was pitch black. The sub's hatch opened, and she pulled off her helmet, hair plastered to her face, lips a little blue, but her eyes were shining like two light bulbs. Her voice carried across the water, scattered by the wind, and seabirds in the distance startled into flight, tracing arcs across the moonlight. I handed her a dry towel. She wiped her face roughly, then threw her arms around me. She was shaking. Couldn't tell if it was from cold or excitement. I could felt her heartbeat, fast, like a bird just let out of a cage. Nora, there's something down there at 6,000 meters. She pulled back, and her face suddenly turned serious. She wiped her nose with the back of her hand. The tip was still red.
What kind of thing? A mass. I don't know how to describe it. It's not a hydrothermal velt, not sediment. It looks like some kind of structure.
Gestured, drawing an irregular shape in the air, curving her fingers like she was tracing an invisible outline. It has edges, doesn't look natural. My sonar picked up an anomalous return too, but the angle was off. I couldn't get a clear look. The return signature was weird, like Mebit, but also very dense rock.
I frowned. 6,000 meters down, an unnatural structure, or some could that mean? A dozen possibilities flashed through my mind, but none of them made me feel better.
Let's download the data first. We'll go over it carefully tomorrow. Get some rest tonight, take a hot bath. Your body temperature hasn't come back up yet. I'm not cold.
She was being stubborn, but her teeth were chuttering.
Being stubborn isn't a skill. She laughed and ran back into the cabin, wrapped in her towel. That night, I couldn't sleep. Not because my knee hurt, but because of that structure Maya had described. I lay in bed, and her edges, unnatural. I tossed and turned. The mattress creaked. Outside the window, the sea was as calm as a black mirror, a moon right in the center, but to patches of silver white.
I remembered a legend from grad school. Someone had supposedly captured images of what looked like an artificial object in the Mariana Trench, but it was later officially dismissed as instrument error. Back then, I'd scoffed, thought it was just a playground for pseudoscientists and conspiracy theorists. But now, facing a real set of sonar data myself, I suddenly wasn't so sure.
I sat up and turned on the bedside lamp. The light was dim, casting a small yellowish halo in the cramped cabin. I picked up my phone and scrolled to the sonar screenshot Maya had taken. That blurred image on the screen, it looked like a sleeping eye. I stared at it for a long time, then put the phone down and turned off the light. In the darkness, I heard my own heartbeat, like the sub's sonar pulse. Maybe it was just a sunken shipping container. Maybe it was nothing at all. Maybe tomorrow after we review the data, we'd see it was just a random arrangement of seafloor rocks. I turned over. My knee let out a creak. But that shape, those straight lines, they stuck in my mind like an after image burned onto my retina. Early the next morning, Maya and I sat in the lab staring at the sonar data. The lab wasn't big, 2 workstations by the window, and the walls plastered was humming in the corner, brewing coffee that was bitter and thick as engine oil. We enlarged it, enhanced it, reduced the noise, went over it again and again. Its outline was indeed irregular, but a few of the lines were almost perfectly straight. Not natural rock wasn't pressing down.
Like, we need to go down again.
My voice sounded light in the empty lab, but it was firm. Your knee. I'm not going down. You are. Take the high-def imaging sonar and the robotic arm and bring back a sample. Also bring the spare sample container in case there's more than one type. She nodded, need me to walk her through the details words. She knew which tools to bring, which parameters to set, and at what depth to switch power modes. She wasn't just my student. She was my partner. One of the few people in this world I trusted completely. Before departure, she stood next to the submersible and glanced back at me. Sunlight slanted in through the workshop's skylight, hitting her face and gilding her scylladangerate. Nora, what if it's something dangerous? Then don't get close, safety first. I walked over and tightened the clips on her helmet. Remember, no matter how beautiful the seafloor is, she smiled, showing a row of neat white teeth. As she climbed into the hatch, her movements were light and quick, like a sea otter slipping into a den. The hatch closed, and the airtight lock clicked shut with a clack. I'd heard that sound 1,000 times, but every time, my chest still tightened. I watched the crane slowly lower the sub into the water. Water splashed up, white foam twirled for a few seconds, and then it sank, evidence that something had the deep been there. I'm glued to the monitors inside the control room. The room sits in a small white building right by the docks, with windows looking straight out into the sub's launching site. I slump in my chair, propping my knees up on a spare stool. The position's awkward. Maya's voice keeps 1,000 meters, 1,000 meters, 2,000's
Voice crackles over the comms, steady as can be, like she's just reading from a script.
Sonar readings are clear. Hull integrity holding strong. Oxygen levels at 96%. Temperature -1 degree Celsius. Humidity normal.
It in Atlantic to Jark out normal.
Nora, I see something. Describe it to me. Take your time. It looks like a piece of metal. There's rust across the surface, but it still holds a faint sheen. It's covered in engravings carved right into the meldwork. It looks like it was cast, old school style. The lines are too fine for machine work. My fingers freeze above the keyboard. Down this deep on the ocean floor? There's no way it ended up here recently. Could it be an old ship's anchor? A broken piece of wreckage? What ancient vessel could have sunk all the way to 6,000 meters? Over 90% of the ocean floor on this planet has never been thoroughly explored by humans. Maybe these relics have been sitting here all along, hidden away, waiting for us to find them. Can you collect a sample? I'll give it a shot. The robotic arm can reach it? Wait a second. There's more stuff right beside it. Looks like pottery jars. Most are shattered, but one's still fully intact. It's covered in geometric patterns. I've never seen designs like this before. They don't match any known ancient pottery styles. It's like nothing. My heart starts racing. Metal artifacts, pottery, strange carvings. This is no ordinary shipwreck debris. This is some kind of ancient site. Who came down to these depths so long ago? Or what force dragged these relics all the way here? Either way, this discovery could rewrite everything we know. Take photos first, multiple angles. Don't touch the intackle jar. Any sudden pressure shift could shatter it instantly.
Snap the pictures, then we'll decide our next move. Got it. I'll only take a sample from the metal piece. Sample secured.
Good. Start your ascent. Move slowly and keep an eye on power distribution. No need to rush. You've got plenty of oxygen.
Roger that.
Takes far the dive down. Every single second stretched out 10 times over. I keep my eyes locked on the depth gauge, watching the numbers creep downward. It's like waiting for a new life to arrive. The sample was brought into the lab, the walls covered with instruction sheets for various instruments. Maya clutterfully placed the sample container into the fume hood, put on her gloves, and got to work. The metal piece wasn't big, about fist-sized, and its surface was precipitating onto the metal, layer upon layer, like tree rings. I picked up a piece of the crust and held it to the light. The thickness of this crust has to be at least... Maya leaned in and measured it with calipers. At least 30,000 years. 30,000 years. That was back when humans were still hunting with stone tools. And this piece of metal, forged, cast, carved with patterns, had ended up 6,000 meters down on the ocean floor. We used acid to remove the crust. It was slow going. Every step had to be careful not to damage the metal underneath. The acid bubbled in the fume hood, filling the air with a sharp smell. I wore goggles and gloves, stopping every few minutes to check our progress. A few hours later, the metal itself was exposed. It was heavy, very dense. Put it on the electronic scale. It weighed less than the same volume of modern steel, but more than cast iron. The composition analysis took 2 full days. Maya and I took turns watching the instruments, drinking coffee when we got tired, ordering takeout when we got hungry. When the results came out, I sat in my chair and didn't get up for a long time. Data scrolled line by line on the screen. Each number felt like a hammer blow. Nora, what is this? It's not any known modern alloy. Iron content is high, about 87%, but it also contains 2% nickel, 0.5% magnesium, and 0.3% carbon. That's almost a composition that could only come from ancient iron smelting, but the purity is way too high. You're saying this is ancient iron?
Not exactly. Ancient iron objects wouldn't have this level of uniformity. Ancient smelting couldn't control alloy competition this precisely. But look at this texture. This is the grain alignment left by forging, not industrial casting. None of that uniform grain structure you get from modern metallurgy. Every hammer blow went in a different direction, like someone made it one strike at a time with a hammer and an anvil. Maya opened her mouth, but no words came out. We looked at each other. 6,000 meters deep, a piece of hand-forged ancient metal. What did that mean? It meant that tens of thousands of years ago, maybe longer, humans or Vagogeni had reached that depth. Currents, tectonic movement, or something else. I put the sample back into the Petri dish and covered it with the glass lid. When the lid clicked shut, it made a crisp sound. Don't talk about the side yet. I stood up and walked to the window. Outside was the dock, the sub sitting quietly, its lights blinking. I need to contact someone. The person I contacted was Ian Black, a deep-sea archaeologist and a professor at Cambridge, one of the few people in the world who'd worked in deep. Met a few years ago at a Gnatic dance. He gave a talk on deep-sea shipwrecks in the Mediterranean. I thought his research interesting. We swapped business cards and never really got in touch again. The phone rang for a long time. I was about to hang up when someone picked up.
Black.
Ian, this is Nora Chen. I hesitated, not sure how to start. Do you remember me?
Nora, of course I remember. The deep-sea engineer from Chicago. Built the best sub. Long time no see. What made you think of me?
I need your help to identify something. I have a batch of samples from 6,000 meters deep. Metal, pottery, maybe even bones. They could be extremely craftsmanship, and there was silence on the other end. I could hear his breathing, quick and slow.
Nora, are you sure this isn't an April Fool's joke?
I'm sure. The samples are right here with me. You come see them with your own eyes.
He flew into Chicago the very next day. His hair was a mess, like he'd been rolled out of bed and stuffed onto a plane. His glasses had thick lenses and matte black frames. He wore backpacks stuffed with instruments, bulging, with a few cables and a roll of tape visible. He came straight from the airport to the lab, didn't even stop at his hotel.
I poured him a cup of coffee, but he didn't touch it. He went right over to the microscope. He examined the samples slowly like he was diffusing a bomb. First with his naked eye, the magnifying glass, and finally the microscope. His expression shifted with every tool he used, from finally pure...
Nora, the magnesium crust thickness here, rough estimate, it would take at least 25 to 30,000 years to form. 25,000 years. That's the last glacial maximum. Sea levels were more than 100 meters lower than today. Back then, where this metal was found, it wasn't seafloor.
So it was originally on land? Or in shallow water?
Maybe. Then, as sea levels rose, it got submerged. But 6,000 meters deep means its original position subside at least... Wait, that doesn't add up.
He straightened up, frowning, and paced back and forth across the room.
Crustal subsation doesn't happen that fast. 6,000 meters in 25,000 years? That's almost impossible. Unless...
Unless what?
Unless it didn't sink naturally. Unless something brought it down to that depth.
We both fell silent. The lab had only the low hum of the AC and the faint electric buzz of instruments on standby. Ian, I need you to help me organize a formal deep-sea archaeological expedition. You handle the funding and academic permits. I'll provide the sub and the operations team.
I need a full sample report, sonar data, photos, everything you can give me. Then I'll go back and write the proposal. This could take weeks, maybe months.
I'll wait. When Maya heard the news, she was so excited she spun around 3 times in the workshop and nearly tripped over a cable. Nora, we're going to be in the news. Easy there. First, let's confirm what it actually is. If it turns out to be some piece of modern trash carried down by currents, we'll be a laughingstock. It's not trash. My gut says it's not. Gut feelings aren't evidence. But sometimes they're right. I looked at her and remembered that I'd once had that same kind of baseless certainty. Then use evidence to prove your gut feeling. Ian moved faster than I expected. 3 weeks later, he sent an email saying the funding had been approved. It wasn't a huge amount, but enough for 2 dives. He'd also submitted the academic permit application, but UNESCO approval process used connections in the field to compress it to 6 weeks. During the waiting period, Maya and I kept busy. We gave the sub a complete overhaul, replaced every worn-out seal, calibrated every sensor, and put new hydraulic fluid in the robotic arm. Maya spent every day in the workshop, wrench always in hand, black grease under her fingernails. Nora, what do you think is inside that pottery jar? Don't know. Maybe nothing. Maybe organic residue. If it's sealed, it might preserve something tens of thousands of years old. Tens of thousands of years old. That would be amazing. Opening it, it'd be like opening a door to the past. I didn't respond. I was thinking about something else. If we actually open that jar, would the content instantly crumble from the pressure change? That's the perfect artifact, and then because you touched it, it falls apart in your hand. Maya, remember one thing. The artifact itself is more important than our curiosity. Better not to know what's inside than to destroy it. She looked at me and nodded. She understood what I meant.